All right. Well, welcome back to another episode of Horror of the Worlds, where we bring up about, the history of the horror movies.
Yeah.
I'm Curtis Gerhardt.
I'm Stephen Miller.
And we also have a new guest. We don't have a name for him yet. But he will have one. He can't really tell us what his name is, so eventually he'll have one. But today we're talking about vampires. So when someone brings up vampires, what's your first thing you think of?
Nightwalkers. Really, anybody that's staying out too late. Bats.
You know what? You're wrong. First thing that should come to mind is oranges.
What the fuck?
Because oranges are a great nitric oxide, which is a vasodilator. It helps dilate those blood vessels, helps get that blood flowing a little bit more. So that's today's sponsors. 10 out of 10 vampires highly recommend it.
Oh, I bet.
Increase that blood flow. But no, all right. So the first time the vampire actually popped up in the English language is in 1732. And also that's, oh my God, I'm already stuttering a lot. But also over here in the West, like the America, is the first time vampires actually became more of a living, even though they're undead, more of a physical being. Because when they first kind of came out, over like in Bulgaria predominantly, they were a ghost monster and stuff. So like it was more of a disease, not voodoo. Voodoo's the wrong word, but almost like an evil spirit. In a sense.
All right.
Where they had more of a demon origins.
Much more of a curse than a.
Oh, like it was a thing that it was a lot like when people got diseases or things were going on, or things weren't going right. It was vampires. But vampires go back further than that slightly, because a lot of their origins are kind of piggybacked off of like demons and different spirits. Like back in the day, I think it's Ireland. It has like the succubus and incubus, which are a derivative or is like a vampire. But
I've heard a few stories out of there. Yeah.
But yeah, you're even before that, before it became English, we have Vlad Tepes, or like Dracula, Vlad the Impaler. Everyone knows of him.
Brutal. Yeah, that guy was crazy.
Like he reigned off and on since 1448 to like 1477, and some of the sadistic shit that he is known for. We're not going to go in depth on him on this episode, but we highly recommend people looking into him if you're interested in sadistic rulers that
actual history. I mean,
legitimate, where he got the impaler because he actually fucking impaled people to scare people away from coming into his land by shoving, was it pretty much like spikes through the human body?
Yeah, he's kind of like made the whole put their head on pikes thing a fucking normal. That guy was crazy.
No, that's just like some of the stuff. Like he was just fucking brutal. And also, one of the things that kind of made vampires seem more realistic is a disease called porphyria and stuff.
I'm not familiar with that.
Yes, it's actually a blood disorder. That it's a damaged blood cell that has it's missing the hema part of like the hemoglobin that carries the oxygen throughout the body.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes. So I mean, that's one of the things that people thought, oh, this evil spirit is like taking over and killing people, or not killing, but turning them into vampires. Because one of them is they have people that are that get porphyria back in the day. They were sensitive to daylight because they would get like really bad sunburn and actually disfigure. They kind of had fangs, which was just their gums receding and making their teeth look longer than they actually were. They also thought they were drinking blood because I guess a lot of it they would be pissing out their own blood or like a dark urine.
Fucking crazy. What?
And also eating garlic would cause them like pain as well. So
that is so cool. I mean, like
yes.
that would suck.
But that's the thing. Like, so this like vampires were based off of true stories, like reality, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, having porphyria is shit to begin with, but in a time when you didn't know what was actually going on, why these people were turning into vampires, and here comes like the whole thing with the cross. Now, this is kind of, I thought was interesting. So during the Spanish Inquisition, during 1478 and 1834, they burned like 600 vampires. Like people over like Bulgaria and all the area where this was happening, they were scared of their Christian beliefs because when they saw that cross, they thought people were just going to start getting murdered and all that stuff.
Well, that links up.
Yeah. So
that's fucking crazy. That's pretty cool.
That's the thing. There is some truth behind some of the stereotypes behind vampirism. When I found that out, like, that is really freaking amazing. And we're going to touch, by touch, we're just going to say this real quick. Like the first vampire book was, or like a novel, was in 1819 called The Vampire, written by John Polidori, which predates Bram Stoker, that we're going to be talking about a lot during this. And the Carmilla, I want to say it's Carmilla because it's Irish, but I don't think they do the with the two L's. That was in 1872 from an Irish novella from Sheridan Le Fanu, which is her story. That story is more sexual driven, more like erotic and female based. Where there was in the sense of trying to come up with a different word, a female Dracula that was going predominantly based of going towards females. So very lesbian based, which there is another subgenre within the whole vampire realm of movies that are more erotic and more lesbian based as well, which
vampire kind of shit.
Yeah, some of those movies are actually really good. I mean, even without the erotica part, which a lot of us will end up watching because, like, oh, vampires and tits. Yeah, you got me.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, I guess quickly talk about Brahms. Oh, fuck it. Let's just go into our first movie real quick. Nosferatu came out in 1922. It's streaming anywhere and everywhere. It's open domain, or no copyrights on it. You could watch it. You could get it off of some websites for free. The whole movie in its entirety. Directed by F.W. Murnau. Yeah, it's honestly, this movie, I feel like everyone knows about this version of Dracula.
Oh yeah,
Count Orlok.
When I watched it, the only thing that really surprised me about the whole thing was how long it was, especially for that time frame in a movie. Like even the original Dracula movie with Bela Lugosi was like an hour and 12 minutes. It felt like it was pushing 2 hours. No, was it just because it had no voice?
I think Dracula, the 1931, was only like 102 minutes. And this one I think was only 122 minutes or something like that. But I think it has something to do with, it's a silent movie.
Yeah. No, it definitely felt like it was pushing time there.
Honestly, if they probably lowered the music that they played during it, you might actually be able to hear what the fuck they were saying. But, I think everyone that's probably around our age or younger knows what Nosferatu looks like because of at least SpongeBob. Yeah. I feel like it's like the easiest one to kind of remember. That's an easy one. But he's been made fun of everywhere as well.
I thought it was a unique place to put fangs. That's all. Kind of gave him the rabbit face.
Yeah, like he had the two front teeth or I think it was like the two front teeth.
Yeah.
Of actual fangs. This is Nosferatu is one of the only movies all the way up till like the 50s or so that is the closest thing to Bram Stoker's. I always want to say Bram. Bram Stoker's Dracula. All the other ones are big deviations from it.
Yeah.
But with it also being so close is one of the reasons why this movie almost doesn't exist anymore because they had the Stoker, the heirs to the Stoker, all that stuff, sued this company and won and had all the copies of Nosferatu burned, destroyed.
Shit!
All but like one remained.
That is crazy.
So this movie could have been lost to history. Yeah, even when The Last Drive-In ended up showing this movie, they actually had the hashtag "Fuck Florence Stoker" trending on Twitter for a good ass while as well, which I guess just this is one of the reasons why I hate people to a point, because with their beliefs or whatever, they could literally make a movie disappear and never see the light of day.
Yeah, fucking get him, Joe Bob. Shit.
Right. Well, I mean, even you have things going on with like WB right now. With, you have the Batwoman or Batgirl movie that is probably never going to see the light of day. You have the Wile E. Coyote movie, possibly never going to see the light of day.
Well, I heard something recently. It might change in the near future. Similar things to the Blade series, and because that one's talking about getting dropped, a couple linking other movies in that same universe are also getting shit canned, even though they're starting and have a better start than Blade did. So,
and some like I know some of them they have trouble like actually filming, but even down from everything's done, they just need to start setting up the cameras.
Yeah,
Gets shit canned. The movie's actually done and edited, ready to go out in theaters, gone.
Yeah,
it's
a damn shame.
Fuck these people, man, that have that power. But also with Nosferatu, he's the one that actually this movie started the whole belief of Dracula dying in sunlight, because in Bram Stoker's Dracula book, the sunlight only made him weaker. It didn't actually kill him. He wasn't actually. It didn't kill him. So Nosferatu is one of the reasons why.
It's more like an allergy, not an end-all, be-all kind of thing.
So Twilight's a little bit closer to actual vampirism than we like to admit.
They just didn't fucking sparkle. God,
yeah, sparkle doesn't do bad. I mean, look at strip clubs. That's some of their biggest thing is glitter.
It's a human disco ball with no violence. Fucking sucked.
I highly doubt that picked it up at all. But I also like one of the things with like Nosferatu I really did enjoy is the special effects back then were amazing in their own right. But I just loved how they actually changed the color of the movie or the film to represent nighttime, or if it's in a dark space.
Oh,
like those simple subtleties. Like to me, it was just amazing. Like when he was on the ship, I don't even think I know they didn't call it the Demeter.
Oh, yeah.
It's simple things like that.
That definitely changed from generation to generation as far as the way you shoot movies. Because in the 70s, I like the way they shot things for a whole different reason. They brought mysticism to the way they shot it. And either they had it completely dark or they had it, I don't know, it felt like it just grabbed more attention.
Like some even like just like lit by candle, granted.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things I always loved about like even movies I guess nowadays, but a lot of the older movies like where they light a candle, then all of a sudden the whole room is lit up. I'm like, that candle doesn't do that much light.
Right.
But you got to suspend disbelief at times, or suspend belief at times to make a movie more enjoyable, more real. That you want to be able to see your fucking movie that you're watching.
Well, if you can't do that, you're not going to enjoy any damn monster movie.
Yeah,
so.
May as well be listening to the radio.
Yeah.
You're watching the black screen, listening to the radio. Doesn't work that well. But yeah, a movie that almost never seen the light of day, or I shouldn't say seen the light of day, but a movie that could have been destroyed. Which there was another vampire movie that got destroyed before this as well.
The Vampire, I think, is what it was called. 1913 or some shit like that.
I want to say it was 13.
This was also by Universal, wasn't it?
I want to say so. I want to say the vampire movie that came out. I'll insert the name of the movie that I'm talking about around here sometime. I want to say that came out like a year or so before Nosferatu did, which... That was the one that brought fangs to Dracula. So I don't think I can't remember if they said that he actually had fangs in the book. So that was the first appearance of actual fangs for Dracula. But they actually got rid of it with this next movie. One of them was directed by Todd Browning, but Dracula, 1931, the one everyone knows. When someone thinks about Dracula, 9 out of 10 people are going to probably say Bela Lugosi
with the pop collar. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I thought it was weird the way he did the bite. He'd go in looking like he was a grandpa about to gum your neck. That was fucking weird.
Right. But that's one of the things a lot of movies, I don't think I wrote it down on what movie we're going to be talking about next, but there was like those homages where they had it on Bela Lugosi when he was doing his stare.
Oh yeah, the shine on his eye, yeah,
and stuff like that was just just another sense they added to that.
Yeah,
which they didn't do. So all right, the great thing about this movie, it was made from with Universal Studios. There's 2 Dracula movies that were shot at the same time. So the Bela Lugosi Dracula was shot during the daytime, like morning, afternoon, and then there's a Spanish version that was shot like in the afternoon at night.
Yeah,
and
I want to see that one. I haven't gotten to find that one anywhere.
I'm gonna say this because I've always read it in reviews. Like whenever a new Dracula movie comes out, not a new Dracula, the new copy of the 31's Dracula comes out, does it include the Spanish version? And I understand why, because it is honestly probably my favorite Dracula movie.
Now I have to see it. I feel like one of the edges that they had with the I guess American version was Lugosi. That was the edge there.
Which Bela Lugosi was a great Dracula because he was actually playing Dracula in a play before this. I think it was in 1917 or 1927 that he was playing Dracula. Which this Dracula isn't really based so much off of the book. This is based off of a play that was going on around this time frame.
Although it does seem like they give Stoker a lot of credit for it, but it definitely is more.
It was based off of the play that was based off of the book.
Yeah.
But yes, the English version had Bela Lugosi, extremely known for, and unfortunately I'm going to butcher his last name, Carlos Villeras, as the Dracula and the Spanish version. Excuse me. Which he did a great part. He played a really good Dracula. But everything else in that movie, if they would have swapped out Bela for him, they could possibly get rid of him in the movies.
Oh,
after I just talked about they shouldn't get rid of him in the movies. But it's just I don't know, Bella's. It feels like for the sake of the differentiating these two, I'm just going to call it Bella's and then Carlos's, just so it kind of helps with possibly some confusion. But the Carlos version. Oh wait, let me see. I think I wrote down the Spanish version was like 30 minutes longer as well, and directed by George Melford. Yeah, I'm still going to call it Carlos's version. I'm not going to remember George. But on top of the Carlos version being longer, it was more risque. It was more story, different shots, which
relatable to what we know about vampires in movies today. It was definitely sex and violence.
They helped add some more lore to it.
Yeah,
like the whole seduction of it all, which that's a great thing about George Milford doing this one. Was they were able to take the dailies from the original, or not the original, the ones that were shot during the daytime, Bella's version, and they knew where to put the lights, they knew where to put the camera, but also make it better. So they saw what they did wrong and made it better. Like I'm sorry, but there's not another word for it. It's the Spanish version is superior to Bella's.
It sounds like they wrote the right notes and you just shot it better.
Which, I mean, that's kind of like one of the things. If you already know what the original's looking like, you know how to make it better.
You
should know how to make it better.
Groundbreaking is still an important credit to get when you're talking about these movies. But yeah, they weren't the first, but still. Better watch is better watch.
Which I highly recommend. I recommend you watching. I recommend everyone that hasn't seen the Spanish version. Yes, it is in Spanish. So fucking what? It is just better. Read the subtitles. Just turn off the volume or whatever and just watch it for what it is. Like this movie actually helps out with the feeling of it, the aura you get from it. Just makes the story so much more deeper.
A little extra time to develop a character
compared to like Bella's. Nothing wrong with it, but that movie, it's quick. Like it just fires on all cylinders. It just starts off, and like I guess the only downside with the Spanish version is there are a lot more silent moments because there weren't soundtracks during this time frame.
No,
so it's just silence, and then they have this. It made me laugh. Like whenever a door was opening, it sounded like those like long balloons like squeaking together. Like it was so.
That's how the Bella's Dracula starts out. That's the first thing I heard was the long doorway just squeaking open.
That's also one of the things too. Because when going back thinking of Bella's version, I always thought he was coming out of the coffin and stuff, but you never really see him come out of the coffin.
No. You see him come out of you don't see him come out of the box either with Renfield getting off the boat and all that.
No. I don't think there's not a boat on this one. If I'm not mistaken.
In Bella's there was. In Bella's, they transfer. They get on a boat. I want to say it was a boat, and that's when they get off the boat. They're talking about how there was a crew. The full boat crew was slaughtered. And the only thing left was this man in his box, and Renfield is now in a psychiatric prison. But he was sitting there talking to the box like, almost there, master. I know you can't hear me. But
which, that's one of the things, too. This is all taken apart in, I did not write that down again. I hate that I'm repeating that. I don't write it down. Maybe that might actually make me do better next time. Where it's all done like almost in an insane asylum. The whole, this family's insane asylum. And compared to... John Harker's residence and all that stuff, which John Harker is like pretty much borderline a non-existent character in this Dracula movies. But also, I'll let you talk about a little bit like this movie was actually shot like during the whole Great Depression here in America as well.
Yeah, the Great Depression. So with this movie being not just Bela Lugosi's like groundbreaking movie for him, it was also a movie that actually helped Universal Studios pull their ass out of the Great Depression. Like everybody's going under at this time, and Dracula is the credit of them still being around. So
brought them back to life
and gave them space to make more monster movies. I mean, I don't know about y'all, but I love me some Wolfman, and that came after this shit, if I remember
think almost
correctly.
a decade as well.
Yeah, so if there was no Dracula, we couldn't have all the other greats.
Yeah, so horror movies saved a company.
Yeah,
saved the studio. Like it wasn't. It's Universal Monsters. They are iconic, and
there's more of a reason for it. Yeah.
Also, one of the great things has nothing to do with Bram Stoker's Dracula, but this is a Valentine's Day movie.
Yeah, it was released on Valentine's Day in 1931.
It was like, granted, aired or released in New York on the 12th of February, but it was released more nationwide on the 14th.
Oh, nice.
But still, it's a fucking Valentine's Day movie. Go take your sweetheart if you have one, or get yourself a popcorn, and a little heart blanket, and watch this movie. It's a Valentine's movie. I said it. Also, one thing that wasn't said in the book, but it was made for this movie, is that Dracula is allergic or is repelled by wolfsbane.
Yeah, it was shown in the movie for sure.
I think they actually talked about it a little bit in the Spanish version.
Oh, see, I feel like it was brief because I want to say I looked away right when Van Helsing whipped it out in Lugosi's Dracula. But yeah, he like immediately jumped back. He's like, "Oh, get that shit away from me!"
There's also this one scene. All right, so there was this one scene that they shot kind of the same, different camera angles, of course. But it's when Van Helsing realizes that Dracula is a vampire. They have the box that has a mirror in it.
Oh yeah.
So Bella simply just kind of nudges it off of his hands.
Oops.
No, don't look at it. Like, how dare you? But the Spanish version, dude, Carlos fucking has his cane, whips it,
bitch slap it.
The thing explodes. The whole box explodes, and I'm like, dude, this is freaking amazing. They didn't even clean it up. Like when they did the next camera, you still see the pieces on the ground and everything. Like,
that's
it was
awesome. Ride with it.
So much better.
Makes it more realistic. Yeah.
Like, that's it. I almost want to equate it to the English Dracula, the horror of Dracula with oh my gosh, I'm completely blanking on his name right now.
Bela Lugosi?
Not Bela Lugosi. Oh my gosh, how am I blanking on names so bad right now? Fucking Christopher Lee.
Oh yeah, Christopher Lee. Oh man.
Sorry, I blank. But I feel like the Spanish and the English, the Bella's and Carlos's Dracula, have the same relevance as Christopher Lee's Dracula and Blackula, where Blackula is just freaking brutal and gruesome, and just like it's not your parents' Dracula. Like, I mean, granted, it is our probably parents' Dracula,
right.
But nonetheless, like, it is more gruesome. It just has more action. It's just more violent, and it has more depth compared to like the original, like if you want to call it the original. Shit, we're speeding through this today. Is there anything else you want to add on to Dracula?
The fact that Lon Chaney Sr. was originally supposed to be Dracula, but he unfortunately died just before they could start filming. Mm-hmm. So Bela Lugosi won that position, and with flying colors, he acted it out.
With Lon Chaney Sr. passing away, it was also Todd Browning, the director's one of his best friends, and he was also battling alcoholism. So with that, Todd was a standoff director. He didn't really want to be on set. He was directing from afar. You have the Great Depression, which made this movie smaller than they wanted it to be. They wanted it to be more extravagant.
A lot of hard hits in this movie getting made.
I mean, the set design, like, this is back in the day where set design was just extravagant, big, and beautiful. Like,
very
even
important.
The like where the coffins were at the very end, and just the spiral staircase. Like, it was just so extravagant and beautiful. But I would have loved to have seen what Universal would have made if the Great Depression wasn't a thing at that time. But both Draculas are still amazing movies. Yes, next movie isn't straight up horror, but it's also Bela Lugosi's last time playing Dracula.
Oh, all right, yeah.
It's Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein.
Oh man, and those guys, even in Scooby-Doo, Abbott and Costello made a killing out of all the meets the Universal monsters.
Before I forget, if you haven't watched it, watch Abbott and Costello, Who's on First.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's not horror related at all, but it's just good, clean humor. Like, I don't care how dark your sense of humor is, how jaded you are. Like, it is so freaking simple and funny and enjoyable to watch. Agreed. It's probably one of my skits I watch at least 4 to 5 times a year, just
for fun. Yeah,
it's just so enjoyable. But yeah, this movie isn't so much of a scary movie. It's just a fun, good nature Universal monster movie.
The tip of the hat for the lovers of the genre. Really.
So this one starts off with Abbott and Costello. They're unloading a box truck full of wax. I'm doing quotes like people listen on the podcast. I'm doing my air quotes right now. Wax figures of monsters and I think killers around this time frame. But unfortunately, Dracula and Frankenstein's monster are not really wax figures. They're real life. This is also one of the times where I don't recall ever seeing it or even reading it in Bram Stoker's. Bella's ring has electrical powers.
What the fuck?
Yeah, he actually uses it to bring Frankenstein's monster to life. Like the first time to actually get him out of the whole crating area.
Give him a good jolt.
Mm-hmm. So Bella isn't really so much a evil. He never really was like an evil Dracula. Like he was more like just a character. Like he was.
I guess so.
Like, not polite, but just nice compared to some of these other vampires that come in the later years.
He tried to keep it sophisticated.
Sophisticated, that is the word.
I mean, he's probably not the most sophisticated in all the history of vampires to perform, but he definitely started the path of You got to be a dapper son bitch to be Dracula.
Well, yeah, I mean, especially coming off the hills of Count Orlik, like where he was killing people.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't turning. Like that was also one of the things. When he actually sucks the blood from someone, they died. They didn't turn into a vampire or anything else. They just died. Oh gosh, I forgot where I was going with that one. My brain just went. But yeah, he was more sophisticated. Bela was more sophisticated. Like he wasn't scary. He was more menacing than scary.
Yeah, the most maniacal he really got was the stare before the bite.
Yes.
Like, yeah. That classic zoom in on the eyes.
But yeah, it's... So you have Abbott and Costello trying to find these wax figures that just disappeared. Yeah. They just walked off on their own. But you also have Lon Chaney Jr. as the Wolfman.
The Wolfman, yeah.
So we have 3 out of the 4... I was going to say appear in this Universal Monsters movie, but I don't really want to say the 4th one actually appears.
Yeah.
But so I want to say this is actually a sequel to, oh man, I think it's like Daughters of Dracula.
Yeah.
And stuff, where Lon Chaney's character is the one that's trying to debunk and kill Dracula by going to Van Helsing and all this stuff. I don't know. I wish this movie wasn't a buy or rent. Granted, if you buy one of the collections of like the Dracula, the 31 Dracula, it should come in that box set. Like it is a fun watch. It's definitely a good rent. I really do recommend it. But I wish I wrote this down. But if I remember correctly, the Invisible Man appears at the very end,
right,
smoking a cigarette. I want to say voiced none other than Vincent Price.
That's fantastic. God, I love that man.
So you have hilarious. 4 Universal monsters appearing in this movie. I bring this one up because it is, like I said, Bela's last time. I want to say this is his last big studio movie as well. Then he kind of fell off the radar to a point. He started making good, bad B films.
Yeah.
Stuff which Johnny Depp plays. Oh my gosh. Just a complete brain fart right now. Yep, I'm going to put the name in here. You watch the movie. It's good. You'll like it. I guess, and all right. Next movie that we're going to be talking about that I already kind of brought up is Horror of Dracula. Also, like the English version of Dracula. It came out in 1958, directed by Terence Fisher. It is also named A Horror of Dracula over here in America, so it wouldn't get confused with being called Dracula over here. Yeah. So over there, Dracula. Over here, Horror of Dracula. This is... all right, so it took about, 30 years to actually start doing another closer rendition of Bram Stoker's Dracula. Because the other one was Nosferatu. This is the other one that actually started being more picked up from the book itself. And also none other than Christopher Lee as Dracula.
Yeah, Christopher Lee.
Bloody and gory, just an amazing guy.
I feel like Christopher Lee was also one of the people that brought an elegance to the Dracula character. He carried on with that standard.
Yeah, he was menacing. He was scary.
Yeah, like he definitely made it a little bit more scary, for sure.
He made Dracula scary.
But he could be just as sophisticated as he was scary. For sure. The red eyes and shit like that.
I actually showed the blood on his fangs.
And he had fangs.
Like, he was also pretty freaking brutal. Like, the whole thing where... Oh my gosh, I can't remember her name either. Wow. But one of his wives ends up attacking John Harker. And stuff. Like, actually attacks him, actually bites his neck and all that stuff, if I'm not mistaken. And that's when Christopher Lee comes in, jumps over the table, beats the crap out of her, and throws her around. John tries to save her after she just bit him, but Christopher Lee is that fucking brutal, where he's like, no, she did just try to kill me, but get off of her.
Right.
like that is, but like in the book, it wasn't like that either. Dracula was, no, he's mine, stay off of him, which is a very common theme when it comes to Dracula movies, where no one touches my victim but me.
Right.
They did it in True Blood. They did it in Coppola's Dracula. That is another very famous one. Like when Dracula actually sets his eyes on someone, it's no one else's but his.
Yeah.
But it's also Peter Cushing as Van Helsing.
This Peter Cushing cracks me the fuck up, man.
Dude, he is amazing. I love him so much. Like, I think this is this one and one of the other movies that he's in, playing Van Helsing. He is so amazing. He is in this movie. He's jumping over banisters, and he's doing fucking
he's all
parkour.
in it for sure. He just feels like Peter Cushing always making 2 sticks to make a cross versus having a cross on him at all times. He's like, no, I got these popsicle sticks, man. We're gonna make this shit happen.
Which that's one of the things. I guess he was arguing with the directors on some of the stuff, where it's like, no, I used the cross too many times. I need to do something else. I need to be like more just grab something, make a cross out of it, because it's boring seeing the same damn cross every damn time. So it was actually Peter Cushing himself. Like, that's the reason why he uses everything.
Peter Cushing does it all the time.
Yes. In one of the next movies that we're going to be talking about here soon, he uses a fucking windmill to kill Dracula by turning it into a fucking cross.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Like, one of the things I want to compare, like, with this Dracula, the 58's Dracula, is they actually use John Harker's diary and phonograph. I want to say that's what it is. Like, where they recorded the voice as a diary, because they talk about it in the book. But he's listening to the notes that he was making, that Dracula could die from sunlight, doesn't like garlic, doesn't like crucifixes and all this stuff, like all the and this technology at the time was very rare. So even during this whole scene, his butler at the time comes in and is like, I thought you were talking to someone, and Peter Cushing's like, yeah, I'm talking to myself. Or like, because he heard a different voice. Like, it was just, I know I did not describe that very well, but it's just a movie of its time. Like, it is so much fun. And I want to say that this is what's set in 1888 as well. But also in this movie, he's saying that Dracula does not transform into wolves or any of this stuff. Like, it's all a myth. As with the book, Dracula is where, Bram is actually set a lot of these beliefs, a lot of these myths in stone, the ones that we all know about, the whole mirror.
Yeah.
Like
the shape shifting, the mirror, the cross.
Mm-hmm. Like Bram's, like his whole lore was, Dracula couldn't be seen in a mirror. Like the whole thought of like having no soul, cast no shadows. Also.
Oh, okay, all right. I see where that's coming from. I thought the mirror thing had something to do with the fact that back in the day we made mirrors out of silver, and them having an issue with silver. Of course, they're not going to reflect on silver
because at the time silver was a pure metal.
Yeah,
stuff like everything was made out of silver. He also mixed some of the folklore with some of the Chinese vampires, the Jiangxis, of being scared of their own reflection.
No,
and stuff. So there was more to the whole mirror than just not reflection. Like, there's actually some meat behind it. I
wish some of them would have explained some of that a little bit better. It would have changed
that's
a whole bunch of movies.
That's the crazy thing, that you have to know the lore before you actually know why they're actually doing it. It's like, oh, he just doesn't like his reflection, or you can't be seen. It's like, no, there's actually a reasoning behind it all. If they do say it, it's a throwaway line that's probably said so quickly or just muttered. Like, I'm pretty sure if they did say it, I did not hear it.
Mm-mm.
You guys might have heard it. I didn't. But it's also like, Dracula's image could not be captured, because I think they even said like that's why you never see like any paintings of Dracula as well. Like, they always end up becoming disfigured, which also is some of the things on the whole mirrors with Porphyria, because it would actually disfigure you as well, and people were hideous and they didn't want to see their own reflection or any of that stuff.
That makes the vampire Lestat and all that a little bit more interesting. with especially with the remake that they do on Queen of the Damned.
Oh, we're gonna get more
because he's always painting.
But that's more based off of Anne Rice's.
Oh, right, that's true.
Interview with the Vampire and stuff. So that is something we're going to be talking about on our next episode. So stay tuned.
Yeah.
Turn up that dial. But Bram also did the whole shape changing. Turned into a wolf, dog, rats, a bat, a fog or mist.
Gigantic fucking wolves, dire wolves. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's some of the comparisons with werewolves and Dracula. Like they're almost one of the same.
There's only one where I've seen them actually cross that one. I think it's one we're gonna have to talk about later. But it's definitely Bram Stoker.
That's almost like one of the things. Like werewolves the people are alive still.
Yeah.
With a curse compared to vampires, they're dead.
Yeah.
Which. I think I'm going to ask this question on the next episode if I remember it. Because it's kind of talked about on True Blood. Yeah. Also, like in the book, he really hammers in the whole hatred of garlic. Because when he ends up trying to kill, I think it was Mina in the book, where it's like, all right, we have to decapitate the head, shove a stake through the heart, and shove the mouth full of garlic.
Stuff like that. Super hatred.
Dude,
the Rasputin, this thing.
Yes.
If it can be killed by it, put it in its tomb.
And that's the crazy thing is like, no, you had to make sure it was dead in 5 different ways in order to make sure that it's actually dead. Which garlic doesn't come back until I want to say Christopher Lee's. Oh, I don't think that one. But yeah, that's like it's.
When was Christopher Lee's done?
58.
58. All right.
So and. Bram's came out in 97, so I mean you already have like 60 years, and
well, I mean there was also
garlic is kind of almost not a thing.
Martin, they talked about it.
Yes, Martin, but that was also in the 70s,
which that's still ways off.
They talked about it in another one of these movies. I don't think I wrote that down again.
I don't even remember it being touched on in Black Sabbath. That was definitely not a subject at all.
Make shirts. I think that's going to be one of our shirts. I did not write that down. Damn it. Bram also did the whole thing where Dracula and vampires were weaker in daylight and didn't die in daylight. And also the whole thought of if you kill Dracula, you save the ones that he turned as well. Because there are some Dracula movies or vampire movies where it doesn't matter who you kill, like that one's dead, but the ones that he turned either die or turn back to the same or nothing changes. They even do a whole episode, I think a couple episodes on that on What We Do in the Shadows.
Yeah.
The TV show on FX, not the
movie.
Yeah, I can never pronounce his name. But that movie's also freaking amazing too. Another great Kiwi film.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah. Oh my god.
New Zealand film. I should probably bleep out Kiwi. Because I think that's actually
that's some hatred.
I think that's a derogatory word. Fuck it, I'm keeping it in. Now the next movie, that movie's great. I highly recommend buying it, renting it, watching it. That's almost a kind of the shitty thing with a lot of these older vampire movies, except for Nosferatu, and I think Dracula's right around the corner. A lot of them are not streaming anywhere. Like you have to end up buying it, or I think Peacock has it. Like Dracula, some of the early Universal monsters.
Yeah, some of it. AMC has a lot of access to a lot of it too. So.
Oh gosh, I did not write again.
Sticking to it.
All right. Next movie we are talking about is Brides of Dracula that came out in 1960. Another Terrence Fisher movie.
Bit of a risque one, if I remember.
It is a little bit more risque, but it is also closer to a sequel to Christopher Lee's Dracula, where Christopher Lee did not want to reprise his role because he didn't want to get typecast as Dracula.
He does so much after that would definitely bring him away, but I get it. I guess
that's the thing, that this movie probably could have changed his whole career.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, granted, he did come back as Dracula. I think he did Dracula and Son as well, which is more of a comical Dracula movie. But yeah, it's oh man, like this movie, I don't like who plays like when he actually shows up as a vampire, because it's not Count, it's Baron Meinster.
Oh,
so dude, he reminds I do say he kind of reminds me of like a female Austin Powers.
All right,
like,
I know what you mean.
Yeah. But this movie also has like a very iconic looking or iconic woman that turns into a vampire, and it's a woman that's playing Gina, because she has all these people that turn into vampires. They have just like the white caked on makeup. You know, it's
make them look like a corpse.
Yeah. Yes, like they look dead, like their version of dead. But I'll try to post an image of her, which is
like
just
the dark sunken in eyes with the white kiss like makeup kind of.
Yes.
like,
but she's also like she is very beautiful. Just like it is such an iconic image of this movie. And this is the one that I was talking about, where Peter Cushing ends up killing the Baron with a windmill, because it's the shadow cast from the moon, and he ends up moving the windmill blades into a way where
the creativity is beautiful.
That's it. Peter Cushing is so inventive.
It's funny at the same time. That's all.
It is extremely comical. Like, I should have brought up just the action scene. Honestly, I think Peter Cushing makes these movies so freaking amazing. I've never really been a huge fan of him until I watched these two movies, and I'm like, holy shit, where has this man been my whole life? Like, he is such adds so much like energy to the scenes. Like when he killed Christopher Lee, like, spoiler, he dies. But there's like a freaking fight scene, and he ends up jumping up on a table, kicks books at freaking Christopher Lee, jumps on the fucking drapes to let the sunlight in as Christopher Lee just freaking burns into ashes.
Loses his shit and goes like a wild ape, tearing shit off walls. That reminds me like the end of Invisible Man, where he's just laughing as he's taking off everything, he just starts flipping shit and running out the room. Like, yeah.
Honestly, I think Peter Cushing would have made a
fucking
great
Drunk with Power.
Invisible Man.
We'll fucking kill everything in here.
Even in this one, the Baron actually turns Van Helsing into, or actually bites. I shouldn't say actually turns him Van Helsing into a vampire. Actually bites him. See the teeth marks, and as a badass as he is, he gets a piece of freaking iron, throws it in some coals to get it red hot, burns the freaking marks, and throws freaking holy water on it.
Oh shit!
And he's cured. But while he's doing this, he has his arm wrapped up in some rope so he doesn't fall to the ground. It's just like a freaking vet, from freaking World War II. All right, well, granted, this is 1880, so I mean, none of the world wars happened yet, but he's a freaking badass motherfucker. All right, I'm just gonna burn this shit and I'm gonna get back to it.
Yeah. Oh, that's right on, dude.
If you're not a fan of him yet, man, it's just these movies will make you fucking fall in love with him.
I've always been a fan of the off-the-wall characters, and that's one of the things that I liked about him. I've just pictured him like, hey man, here, carry this guy. He's like, fuck that, give me those candlesticks over there. We're gonna make a cross.
Yeah, and it works.
It's weird.
Or I guess in these movies it works because they just amplify the whole. This is what they added to the whole lore is just a cross made out of anything works.
Yeah,
a lot of these movies, they're big movies. There was a lot of vampire movies, but some of them they don't really add much to it.
He does it later, I think, in Salem's Lot. He does that shit too.
Which we'll be talking about the next episode. Maybe we're talking about Salem's Lot. I think we probably should.
It's.
I feel like an iconic movie. I mean, no one's ever heard of it.
Yeah. Well, fuck.
It's from that one guy that makes books.
He does shit.
He made this one movie where freaking trucks come to life. I mean,
cocaine truck ride.
But yeah, again, we just kind of wanted to touch upon some of the bigger movies that some added some new lore to it, some brought in some of the lore.
Eliminated all the lore. That was probably the favorite subject I got.
Also, with the Brides, Van Helsing actually talks about vampires can actually transform and stuff. So I guess during his studies, he found out that they can actually transform into different creatures.
Oh, just flip the script on that one.
I pretty much. I mean, always changing things up, making it more lively.
Yeah.
But all right, a couple years later after this, since Brides came out in '60, we're talking about a Mario Bava, which is, if you're a fan of Italian films, you've heard of this director. Is also in a pretty good movie, started an okay band called Black Sabbath, 1963.
So this is one of the ones that I was talking about earlier with this time frame, the way they did lighting, it either made it more glamorous, more mysterious. The way they used purples and yellows and shit like that in the shots, it felt like every scene from this movie was iconic, and you saw it either on a poster or on a remake of the cover of the DVDs. Watching it, even if it wasn't violent, would have been just fun as hell to me.
I think that's like one of the things that so Black Sabbath is more of an anthology film where it's, compared to like a trilogy of horrors, there's 3 stories in this movie. And also another awesome thing is Boris Karloff is like playing like the creep, does like in the Creep Show. Like he's a guy that kind of brings in the story, kind of like the almost connective tissue, almost like that Alfred Hitchcock Presents type thing. Which, I mean, we'll talk about Boris Karloff in another episode as well. Let's talk about the first segment really quick before we actually get into the vampire section of it, because this one actually really does deserve at least a touch.
Brings a good setup.
It is extremely fun. I want to say it's The Phone or The Call. It is, if you're a fan of giallo movies, like those like Italian like whodunit movies, definitely check out like at least this segment, because it is shot so beautifully and so incredibly well. And it's also like one of the earlier giallo movies. Like I said, I don't want to touch upon it too much because that's for a different episode. But then the next segment comes into the Verdelock.
Yeah,
I want to say it's pronounced. I think that's also vampire. I could be mistaken on that one. But this movie, like you were just talking about, is what screams like Hammer films to me.
Yeah,
because it's like it could be pitch black out, or it's in a dark room, and all of a sudden it's like purple light, because like purple is never like really a color that's emitted unless it's from.
It was a very
something.
unique way to capture the whole scene. Like in Wolfman, they used a dark blue and black with touches of yellow to make it feel darker for the time frame it is in. They did that with purples and yellows without making it overly grainy or anything like that, to capture a little creepy essence to it.
I'm kind of curious if, for the sake of these movies, if that was almost like a little bit of a touch from Nosferatu, because like during the night scenes, like it was like green and like purple. So I'm kind of curious if that's just how movies back then just did night scenes, like where it was well lit or relatively well lit, but they cast purple light to just signify it's nighttime.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that was a lot of the. I want to say it was like the era, like so when they made that movie recently, The Love Witch. Right, they try to capture that era by doing the same thing with the lighting, and it felt like it was just kind of what they did at that time. Like right now, the big thing is purples and pinks in the movies and stuff like that, like Mandy and Color Out of Space. Like you have those more vibrant colors sitting side by side, and that's the thing we're doing right now. You even see it in like the remake covers of Ghostbusters and stuff like that. So I was thinking it was more of a time frame thing.
Well, I guess like I mean it still goes on nowadays too, where very rarely do you ever see a movie where it's just how it's seen in everyday life, that bright, vivid colors. Well, I mean, if you're in Washington, it's not vivid colors. You go outside.
Yeah.
But you have that clearness to our how we see things. But a lot of movies always have that, like especially in like the 2000s horror movies, they always have that blue tone, that tint to it. Like I always kind of felt like that industrial, like where you just watching it, you felt like you were listening to Disturbed or something like that. You know, like Oh gosh, I really hope I remember to look that up because I'm actually genuinely curious about that now. Like if it's just purple just to signify, oh, it's nighttime now, but you're indoors. I guess a quick recap on this segment of the story is two guys are headed to a town and they come across a beheaded body with a dagger through its heart. Yeah. The guy picks up the dagger and they go about their way, and they come across a house where they find its missing dagger, or where the dagger came from. And they were it was a family of 4. I think it's like the husband, the wife, daughter, and a son.
Yeah,
and a dog in the background. Unfortunately,
it was one of these things that even for the time frame, it felt like it was pretty, I wouldn't say gory. It just had a little extra showmanship in what they showed, like with the decapitated head. It's not like they did a quick pan. No, they showed that shit, and it was actually pretty good fucking work, man. Yes. I mean, it looked good. And they did that several times throughout the movie. In each segment, they had at least one scene that stuck out just like that.
I think that's the whole thing is, at least when it comes to these vampire movies, Christopher Lee's started making vampire movies more brutal and what you can actually see, like the more gruesome, like for its time frame. But then you have the Vertilock. I did pronounce that right, maybe. Where it was also more gruesome. Like there was more blood to it. There was more violence, like legitimate, like actual violence compared to just like shoving.
Right,
you know, like the mother ends up stabbing the dad with a pair of scissors and stuff. Like it's more gruesome. But yeah, like it's more of this movie's more of a bloodbath.
Yeah,
like I mean,
absolutely.
I mean, to the point where they are like playing with each other's minds. Like there is a lot of like mental games that are going on in this movie. Like they even killed a freaking kid in this movie. They killed one another. I mean, it's just, it's actually pretty solid. Like it actually took me a minute because I don't, like I think it was just like the translation and like how what they were speaking was just kind of difficult for me to grasp at the time. Yeah. Granted, I was watching it when I was almost falling asleep. So, but this one is based off of a novella written by Alexei Kostanovich. I know I did not pronounce that right. But fucking, I'm gonna actually spell the name just to kind of show how difficult it actually fucking is. Okay, Aleksey and last name Konstantinovich. Yeah, fuck off. You already know I can't speak.
Konstantinovich.
Fuck like you too for saying that one good, all right? Whatever.
It feels like that part in Dodgeball where he's trying to describe her name.
Dude, I don't remember that.
Oh, I'll have to show it to you then.
All right. All right, so what makes this movie also so great, and one of the reasons why I wanted to bring up this movie is it started off a very iconic, like god tier metal band, the godfathers of heavy metal, Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
And one thing I think is like really kind of funny is the vampire, the dad that comes back, looks a lot like Butler, the bassist, like how he does nowadays. Like it's just like, oh my god, like it's him from the future, like he is a vampire. But I know ever since I kind of made that connection in my head, I could not unsee that.
Unsee it, yeah, I agree.
I probably shouldn't have said that for people that haven't seen it, because if you actually look up what he looks like now, it's like, all right, Black Sabbath is playing in Black Sabbath. But yes, like, oh man. And it ends pretty bleakly too.
It does. Like it's not on a high note.
No. Pretty much like everyone dies. Like there's a lot of seduction going on,
which is a definite definition of horror. It has everything to do with the ending of the movie, or how it feels, and hopeless is how you're supposed to feel at the end of a horror movie.
Yes, I feel like that's like one thing. So a lot of them, like Dracula ends up dying, vampires end up dying, everyone lives happily ever after.
Right.
Like no, this one it's like everyone's fucking dead, or everyone's turned into a vampire. No happy ending. Just like
go home, fuck off.
Right. Like,
no one's happy here.
Actually, kind of not. It's refreshing in a way. Like it's unfortunately you have to go back 50 years in order to have a refreshing take on a movie.
No, I mean, the reason why some of the horror movies I like stick out to me is because the endings that I know from them are fucking bleak.
Yeah. Also the segment that comes in after this, I want to say, I think it's called A Drop of Water, where they have like the dead body is like is very very iconic image as well.
Hell yeah.
So Black Sabbath is just full of iconography.
Yeah,
I think that's
like
the word,
the
right?
whole thing. Yes.
I think I said that correctly too. First shot. Yes, I'm doing. Sorry, I just screamed in you guys' ears. But yes, that's another movie. I actually want to say this one is streaming on Tubi as well. I think.
Yeah,
Tubi
that shit's in
Plex.
Italian, so get ready to read some subtitles.
Which I'm kind of curious because I know a lot of Italian movies. I want to say Lucio Fulci and Bava was kind of. Actually, I want to say not even just so much them. A lot of Italian makers, where the actors weren't really speaking Italian. They were speaking whatever language the actor knew how to speak.
Yeah.
And stuff like if it was like German, English, Italian, Greek, or whatever, and they just said the lines that they knew and hoped that the other actor knew when to speak their lines.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of ballsy. But
everything was dubbed.
I remember
at that time.
watching it when I first watched it. I watched it with English dub, but this time when I watched it, it was Italian dub, and I was sitting there trying to take in each scene with reading it, and I'm like, okay, I'm keeping up pretty well, but
I feel like that'd be like actually a really good movie to turn off the English dub or turn on like a different language. Because I don't think I watched it dubbed, because I think all it is just subtitled on
Tubi. That's all it is.
Yeah.
You don't have a choice. I tried.
Which. But I feel like that movie is just like you could just watch it and be enjoyable. Like you don't need to read or know the language that they're speaking.
Truly,
like,
I agree with you 100%.
Which makes it also another great movie is you don't need those words to progress it. It's just the imagery of it is enough to push the movie forward. You know what they're saying with the acting. You know with the images.
They wore their emotions very well throughout that whole movie. And it didn't feel too, I guess for the time frame it was still a little soap opera-y in the action. But it still did very well.
They feel like they're on a play. That's one thing I wanted to bring up with Horror of Dracula and Dracula's Brides, or Brides of Dracula, is they felt like they were set, like they were doing a play. They weren't so much on acting. Like the sets felt more like sets. You know, they weren't acting in a movie. Like they were on a stage and stuff. It felt like that, like more loud, like they weren't trying like being like human like us, or not like us, like everyday movies, like where they try to be like an everyday person,
like Martin.
Yeah. Speaking of, next movie is streaming on Tubi, one of George Romero's kind of forgotten movies. Like
I don't see why it's so forgotten. Like, it was done completely different from everything else. The only nitpick I have about it is the 70s way of shooting a movie. It felt like everything was gritty. Like, I love Grindhouse movies, but this felt like it was Grindhouse with the tint turned down more. So it was a very dark movie
George
overall.
Romero as well. A lot of his movies
True.
kind of have that grain that, like, you're literally watching it through the lens.
Yeah.
Like someone kind of almost recorded this without the shaky
cam. I just felt
cam.
like the whole damn day was overcast, kind of. I don't know. Mm-hmm. It was...
But this movie is Martin, that came out in 1977.
Very interesting take on the whole vampire scene.
Mm-hmm. Really. It is a very slow movie.
It's a slow movie, but I didn't find myself wanting to walk away from it. Mm-hmm. I wanted to keep seeing where it was going because it progressed at all the right moments.
Yeah, it's also a take I haven't seen of vampires.
No, I felt like it was
pretty fresh, and that's like one of the reasons why I don't understand why I haven't heard of this movie, or this isn't more well known, or there's not more takes on vampires like this is, where you follow the gentleman Martin, that he's just going to kind of living his life for the most part, and then he ends up getting abducted is the wrong word. His uncle takes him in.
Takes him in is the best way to do it because of his family bloodline. Is it from the Nosferatu bloodline or something like that?
Like the dad or the uncle is like the Van Helsing character in this movie.
They're supposed to be family, but
and also they kind of we're going to talk about it in a minute. But you end up following him around, and how he drinks blood isn't through fangs. Like he's just like an everyday person. He's able to walk in daylight, but he drugs women, predominantly women. Like he does do, I think that one of the guys, but he ends up drugging them, so they end up passing out, and he slits their wrist and drinks their blood.
Yeah, pretty much makes a cut to make drink their blood, and he also sets it up to make it look like they might have overdosed.
Yes,
so that it was less likely to be pegged on him. I feel like the reason why he drugged them was for less of a struggle, but it's mostly because he wanted this to be as least painful as possible for the victim, because he couldn't live with the consequences.
And like that's the thing. Like I'll go and say this so we could actually talk about it more openly. Is he demystifies the whole beliefs on what vampires actually are, what Dracula actually is.
Yeah.
The whole can't step out in sunlight.
Calls out the bullshit.
Garlic. Yeah. It's like, they're just magic.
Yeah.
Like magic isn't real. Like it's just...
That's all Hollywood bullshit. This is how vampires really are.
So, I mean, that's why he was, drugging up people so that he could actually drink their blood. And why he was actually setting up these killings like they were suicides, just so... Because he learned over the years of doing all this that people wouldn't look at him or he wouldn't be ostracized.
Yeah. He's also supposed to be the last of his bloodline. So after him, this curse, this family inheritance does not exist anymore. Yeah. Not supposed to, anyway.
And he doesn't turn people into vampires after he kills them or any of that stuff. Like, he ends up even biting and chewing garlic just to show, like, no, it's magic, it's fake, it's Hollywood bullshit.
He laughed at them for hanging it on their door, like, yeah, y'all are fucking stupid.
Same thing with even crosses. He grabs a cross and stuff like it's not real. But also one of the things that I think, like, at least the first time I saw this image, like, I saw it was kind of weird. Like, first time you see him kill someone, he gets completely naked. I'm like, all right, that's his thing. He's never had sex with a woman that was actually awake. Until
weird.
Yeah. So I mean, he's a date rapist.
Yeah.
Yeah, kills him. Borderline necrophiliac.
Yeah. Fucking weird.
Yeah. Which, I guess that's kind of another one of George Romero's MO, I mean, the dead.
Yeah. That's for sure.
But he ends up taking off the clothes, which you just think, like, oh, he's going to end up having sex. But it was his way of not getting blood on his clothes.
Yeah, he's trying to keep a clean kill.
That's exactly it. Like, there was images of like who he was before that was shot in black and white, and he has his white shirt on, it has blood all over it, and that was like his way of like, fuck, they know that I killed someone because I'm caught red-handed,
right?
Stuff. So easier to wash off when you're naked.
Yeah,
you get blood on you compared to walking around with blood-soaked clothes.
I mean, his uncle, is that what he's supposed to be? The uncle?
Uncle, yeah.
Dude's an asshole the whole time. I mean, Martin's in the wrong.
Yes.
But the whole time, Uncle has nothing but suspicion and no proof.
Yes, like no faith in him.
Yeah, no faith.
They are, especially for being a Christian family, too, like the lack of faith and trusting.
Right.
Your own blood. Which that's the thing I never really understood, because it's supposed to be uncle. But I wonder if I
feel like it was a distant relative, like because...
a different bloodline of uncle. But for being the last one. So, like, this movie is a slow burn. It's entertaining. It's enough to kind of keep you captivated.
Yeah.
But
it's not that long of a movie either, from what I remember.
It didn't feel like it's like a normal.
It's like an hour and a half,
but it didn't really feel like an hour and a half.
No.
But it ends also very fucking bleakly.
Very bleak.
Like, honestly, I don't really want to spoil this ending, because
this is one of the ones that I mean. It feels like it's predictable, but I don't want to spoil it either.
Like that, because I don't mind spoiling a lot of movies, especially if they're older ones that people should have seen or is quite obvious. I mean, it's kind of obvious on what happens, but
the bleak ending for me on this one is kind of why it stood out.
Mm-hmm.
The whole way the story was carried out, like, this motherfucker for so long has had to be so careful and doing everything a proper way.
And
proper. I mean,
and then just
He's got his own fucked up set of morals, but
And then movie ends.
Yeah.
Credits roll.
And done. Like I remember
that's
yelling
it.
at the damn screen, like, for real, that's where we end this shit. Like,
And it kind of ends like the same way as like Boondock Saints.
oh yeah,
Like because they have people talk, or the gentleman on the radio, like and all the people that are calling in asking, "Where's oh, he didn't use his real name, but like, oh, where's the guy at? Where's that vampire at?" Like at the end of Boondock Saints, where they had, oh, who are these saint killers? And stuff, like,
yeah. Only the Boondock Saints was actually based on a true story, from what I understand. At least that's the way they made it seem like, which made the movie even cooler. But yeah, they were talking about how the vampire of where we're at, like, oh, I bet he's out just doing his thing.
Right. Huh. I'm gonna have to try to make a connection. I will be able to make a connection to make Boondock Saints a horror movie, so we could talk about it. And I'm not going to go as simple as Daryl Dixon, you know. And,
no, but they are actually talking about making another one.
Yes, I did
with
hear about that.
the original cast. So
I am.
That'd be pretty cool in my opinion.
I hope. Yeah, I'm kind of curious because I thought they were supposed to be making a TV show, like a cartoon, some odd years back as well. But I think that got, axed like everything else does. But no, I'm kind of really curious because I don't remember the second one that much.
Yeah, it was kind of a.
Like that's
felt like they were just trying to keep the storyline going, but
which, that's almost a. I am totally for like sequels nowadays.
I feel like I'm down for sequels if they're done right. That's how I feel about the Ghostbusters thing. I'm not mad at it. It feels like it was a father and a son. The father passing down the lineage of this empire he had built to his son, and his son picking it up and taking it to new heights with the same style that his dad had. That's why I like Chucky. I feel like it was a passing down from father to daughter. I think that's cool as shit.
I think that's like what. I think Chucky and the Saw franchise are like probably the only two big franchises out there that do sequels right.
Yeah.
Or like as right as one can.
Right.
I mean, as much as I love Nightmare on Elm Street, they are kind of messy. I still enjoy them. I look past all how they do things sloppy. Same with Friday the 13th, even the Halloween, whatever they're doing. But I feel with like the love that Boondock Saints has, I don't see them doing a bad sequel nowadays.
No.
Like if it was done back like in 2008, even as recent as 2015, I could see it being just a cash grab and a shitty.
But Norman Reedus has a lot to going on it. You know what I mean? He's got so much more skill. Yeah.
Another like a huge name. Oh man, I'm not gonna make that reach. Because I was gonna say, oh yeah, like I mean Daryl Dixon, but I was like, he was also in Cigarette Burns from one of the Master of Horrors movies with.
He's got a lot of creep factor he could bring to a violent movie.
John Carpenter directed.
Yeah,
I am so bad with names right now. Oh gosh. You know why I'm so bad with the names? Because it's fucking Bridget.
Fucking Bridget.
God damn it! And you know who you are, Bridget. Fuck you. But yes, so we're gonna leave at that on 77, and we're gonna pick up, I want to say 79 on our next episode. Just something kind of quick and sweet. And I know we didn't touch on everything. Like,
there are so many movies that we didn't talk about.
And because I mean, like I already brought up like the whole Camilla, subgenre with this, some of the black exploitation. There's so many other ones that are vampires that are just pretty decent, but there are some decades where they just didn't really have a lot of vampire movies.
I feel like in the 90s and the early 2000s, things really pick up for movies in general because they can do a lot more.
Popped so big.
Oh, yeah, and the 80s. Oh, God, can't forget the 80s, but they had a different way of doing everything then. They made leaps and bounds, but it was still marked under the B-movie genre for the most part.
Like, it was still considered like porn.
Yeah.
Or like you're not making anything worthwhile.
Yeah, 80s, decade of the slashers.
Yeah, thank God.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess you'll see us next time here on Horror of the Worlds. Don't forget to subscribe, like if you want, leave a note, nasty comment.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Some hate mail.
But I'm Curtis Gerhardt.
I'm Stephen Miller.
And hope you have a horrible day. Fuck you, Bridget.